Welcome to the Story-Worthy Hour of Power. My name is Christine Blackburn. Hello, everybody. I am so glad you're here. Tonight is our 27th show in a row. That's right. Every Sunday night, we've been coming at you for 27 Sundays in a row. It's so exciting. I just love doing the show. And after tonight, I'm actually going to take off 2 weeks. Can you believe it? I'm taking off 2 weeks and I'm starting another podcast. You heard me. I'm starting another podcast. But we're also going to bring this show back in December. And when the show comes back, we're going to be live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube all at the same time via StreamYard. So don't you worry. I will keep you guys in touch as to what's going on. You can always go over to storyworthypodcast.com, join my mailing list, and then you'll definitely know what's going on. And tonight we're playing Story Smash, the storytelling game show at 7 o'clock. And we've got Felicia Michaels coming in to be an expert judge, and also Ed Krasnick. Those two have judged the game many times. And we've also got Eddie Feldmann judging tonight. So that's going to be a blast as well. So just like the last 27 weeks, I've got 4 other amazing storytellers coming on the show tonight. And you guys are here. And we're playing Story Smash, and it's all happening. So again, welcome, and I'm really glad you guys are here. So you guys, yesterday, it looks like Trump finally acknowledged that Joe Biden won the election, finally. But Trump says he will not concede. He will not concede. And this really should come of no surprise, because we're asking him to concede a lot. You know what I mean? And I think if we're going to do that, we need to start off small. Like first, Trump, can you concede that you are orange? You know what I mean? Like if he could get over that, then maybe he could open the door even bigger, you know, maybe really get into conceding. Now there was voter fraud. It's true. He called it out and it did happen. It happened in Pennsylvania. That's right. Some guy voted for his father who had died months ago. But the thing is, he voted for Trump. So he voted for Trump twice. The voter fraud that was found in Pennsylvania was in Trump's favor. And he still lost. Ha! Anyway, you guys, I'm really glad that Joe Biden will be in office. I know we're going to have a much better 2021. And, you know, because of this whole COVID thing, you know, obviously we can't see our families like we used to. I mean, I can't even see my nephew. I have a nephew who lives only like a mile and a half from me, and I can't see him because of COVID. He's 35. He's a costume designer. He's very accomplished. And 2 nights ago, I was outside a restaurant down the street called Pattaya Thai. And I was waiting for my food, right? So I ran in, I ordered, and now I'm waiting out in the parking lot. And all of a sudden, I see my nephew walking down the street. So I'm like, oh my God, Adam. And I yell for him. And he comes over walking toward me, and I give him a big hug. Maybe bigger than I should have because it's like COVID and everything. But, you know, he's in a mask, he's in a hat, and I'm in a mask, and I give him this big hug, and he hugs me really tight. In fact, he hugs me tighter than he usually does, and that was weird, but okay. And then I'm saying, I'm just so happy to see you, man. You look great. Your hair's a lot longer. You look good. You look different. Okay. It's then that I realized it wasn't my nephew. I was hugging this guy for 2 minutes. I had no idea who he was, and he went along with it. Anyway, as he walks away, finally, I'm just like, okay, bye. Like I just played it out. You know, I was so dug in at this point. I just said, okay, see you, Adam. See you soon. Bye, honey. And then I text my nephew, Adam, and I say, Adam, please tell me, were you just a Pattaya Thai? And he texts, no, dude. Oh, so embarrassing. Anyway, it happens. You know, we've all had those moments during COVID. And, you know, look. The good news is I'm getting carded even more because I have a mask on. So that's kind of fun. I enjoy that. All right, you guys. The Hour of Power is going to be back in a few weeks. Like I said, it's going to be streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And Story Smash, the storytelling game show, is the same thing. But Story Smash is moving to Friday nights. So starting after tonight, the next Story Smash will be Friday, December 4th. And again, it's going to be revamped and a lot of fun. So I really hope you guys will come back for Story Smash. And like I said, you can always find out what's going on over at storyworthypodcast.com. All right, you guys, let's bring on our first storyteller tonight. He's been on the show before. I love him to death. He is he's a really good person. I met him a few years ago, actually, and he's a director and a writer, and he produces a fabulous storytelling show in Pasadena, California, called Off My Head. Wherever you are, you guys, please put your hands together for Ty Fance. Hey, Ty.
Hello. Just like that, I'm here. I'm magic. Wow. A lot going on. And this is going to be one of those stories that I'm kind of glad happened, but I'm still not sure, even though it was years ago. I was like 18 and wasn't quite the alpha in the neighborhood. It was more like a beta. Because when it came to physical confrontation, I'd rather make fun about it or run. So it came to a point that I had to learn how to defend myself. And it wasn't easy because, aggression only came in dire situations for me, not just some random act, even though I lived in Watts. So I had plenty of opportunity to get in and out of scraps, but I just chose not to until one day there was this boxing class that came along. And I figured, okay, I can do this. And learning the box came so natural to me. I enjoyed the power and the control. I finally felt like an alpha. Yeah, alpha. Because I was whooping them heads on a regular basis. Got to a point, they didn't want to spar with me. Instead, I had to spar with my coach. And then one day, I was like, you know what? I can go pro. Yeah, I'll go pro. Because I need some more competition. These guys, they just weren't cutting it. So I talked to coach. I said, Coach, you know what? Take me to the real gym. Because he was a professional boxer. His name was Andy the Hawk Price. Look him up. Really good, too. Won a lot of fights, except the one that he had with Sugar Ray Leonard. I remember that fight because I bought it on pay-per-view. And I invited all my friends over. I was like, hey, man, come on over. My coach is going to be fighting tonight. Yeah, he's fighting Sugar Ray Leonard. It's going to be great, man. 10 rounds. No worries. Come on, sit down. Have a good time. I'll get some food. I'll be right back. What happened? Why is coach on the ground? What happened? I remember asking coach about that. I said, what happened, brother? He can fight. Well, there you go. But I told him, I said, you know what? I'm sorry. I also had a previous conversation with my mother about this. I told her I wanted to go pro, and she was like, you crazy. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. I could do this. She says, boy, I'm telling you what you need to do. You better go to school and get a good education. Talking about boxing. I'll box your head. Which you probably could, but we never got down to that. So finally I get to talk to coach. I said, Coach, take me to the gym. He's like, I don't know about that. So no, I want to go. Nah, I don't know, man. You sure? I need some real competition. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a real boxing gym, like a professional gym. It has a certain characteristic that is undeniable. When you look at the side of this particular building, it was old and ragged, not pretentious by no stretch of the imagination. It was a basic building. When you open the door on this building, I should have known I was going to be in for something. The door was rusty and it was heavy. So it took me and the coach to open this damn door. And as I did, it made that creepy sound like a Halloween house. You would think that would be enough, but no. When we got the door open enough, this funk that rushed out of the place was so strong and so poignant. It was like a mixture between sweat, desperation, with a sprinkle of hope. I should have turned around right then. Nope. Went on in. And when I got in, that's when it really hit me. There's this really cool gym. The ring was right in the middle of the place. It was kind of old and ragged. The ropes were kind of torn up a little bit, and the canvas a little stained. And to the left, there was this big, heavy bunching bag, a big old raggedy bag. It was made out of canvas, but it had been wrapped with duct tape to maintain its integrity. And right standing next to that bag was this big muscle-bound dude, just muscles on top of muscle for no particular reason. Big, no shirt, shorts, no socks, just bare boxing shoes. And he hit in the bag. Now, every time he hit the bag, dust would shoot off the backside of the bag. Sweat would just leak from his brow, right? And the building would shake. I guess I looked a little concerned because coach looked at me and said, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. You sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. okay, well, you can let go of my hand then. About 10 minutes later, he wrapped my hands up, put the gloves on, got my mouthpiece in. At the time, I had an 18-inch afro. So he had a little trouble putting the headgear on. By the time he got it on, my hair would stick out through the hole of the thing and out of the top. So it looked a little weird, but it was common in those days to have an afro. So, and then he said, pick somebody to fight. And I'm like, I thought maybe, you know, you and me would just hit the bag and, you know, get a little workout. And he said, no, you wanted the real deal, remember? I'm like, yeah. So I look around this place, and I got to tell you, all the boxes in that room were in ridiculous shape. I'm talking 6-pack abs, solid pecs, arms that look like pistons. And they all look like they just killed something. So I'm looking. I finally see a little dude over in the corner, shadow boxing, looking pitiful. He's got on lime green pants, powder blue headgear, and pink boxing gloves. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is the guy for me. I told coach, yeah, I'll fight that guy. No, not that big old ugly dude, that one, the little guy. He's about my age. Oh no, I'll take it easy on him. I'm still feeling confident. So we get in the ring, and I'm still feeling that juice from the gym and that confidence. So the bell rings, and we going at it. I'm throwing left, right, jab, jab. You know, he trying to hit me, but he ain't doing that good. So my confidence is kicking in. And all of a sudden I decided, you know what? I got stuff to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this. So I get him in the corner and I jab him in the stomach. Boom. Then I go for the head. Boom. I'm like, you know what? Okay, here we go. And I go to throw what I call my best punch, which was an uppercut. And I think I got about halfway to his face before lime green just opened up on me. Boom, 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 punches coming from every which way. It felt ridiculous. Every time I was trying to get away, somehow he would corner me. It almost felt like I was in one of those cartoon fight clouds, you know, like with Bugs Bunny. This dude had to be like the Tasmanian devil. Because again, every time I would try to reach away, he would reach out one of them little pink gloves, grab my little butt, pull me back in, and punch away, man. And I remember I was thinking it was getting really crazy, and all of a sudden, everything just slowed down. And I saw him punch, and I moved and went past. And I was almost getting that confidence again before the next thing I know, well, I don't know what happened next. Because when I woke up, I couldn't see out of my left eye. And then I thought I was like really hurt until I realized my headgear had turned around. So I had to turn it, and I was looking through the ear hole, or the right hole. So adjusting it, I was able to see again. And I remember getting up, looking at coach, well, trying to find him for the first place, because I looked in one direction, he wasn't there, and I had to look around, there he was. And he's like, hey, you all right? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Do you want some more? I'm like, you know what? Not today. Matter of fact, you guys can have this. Took off those gloves. I'm like, I'm going to college. That was into my boxing days. Thank you.
What have I got? Here we go.
There you are, Christine.
Well, no,
you fell down the hole.
I was so excited because you were talking about my buddy, Ray Leonard. You know that I know him.
Oh, of course you do.
No, I'm not kidding you, man.
No, of course you do.
I'm going to show you something right now. You stay with me. I got to show you something right now because
No, I believe you. No.
I just found some photos and I'm so excited about it. Here's me and here I am boxing with him.
Well, you're kind of boxing.
No, we're having one of those fights. What's it called again? Arm wrestling.
Arm wrestling. Got it.
And here we are. He's a good-looking man.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's when I took him on. I just took him on right there.
Well, got it. So, this is recent because you got your little story-worthy sign there.
Well, this is about actually like 6 years ago, but you know what's really cool? Ray Leonard has remained a friend of mine. He's so cool. I started dating my boyfriend about 2 years ago, and I don't know how it came up, but Ray Leonard came up, and I told him that I had met him and I worked with him. In fact, I was even working on a podcast with him. It was going to be called The Fight of Your Life with Sugar Ray Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
anyway, it got passed. But the point is we worked together a good amount. So my boyfriend, or this guy I was dating, he didn't believe me. So I texted Ray Leonard and I asked him if he would prove that I know him. And he called my boyfriend and left a message, like a voice message. And he said, "Hey, Tom, my name's Ray Leonard and I know your girlfriend." It was a riot. I scored big points.
I know you did. He's a great guy, great fighter.
He's a great guy and he's very handsome. When I asked him if his sons boxed, he said no. Like, boxers don't come from wealth, you know? Boxer, you don't get hit in the face because you want to.
Well, so that's the problem. That's the challenge. See, I had options. That's where I went to college.
Exactly. I'm glad you went to college. I'm glad.
So was my mom.
Do you miss boxing at all?
No, I still have a little workout gym in the garage.
Do you really? That's cool.
Absolutely.
You can teach me things. I'd love that.
I do. Yeah, I could do that.
I would like that. Thanks, Ty. We'll see you for Story Smash. Okay, cool. All right, you guys, this next talent, she's fabulous. She's a stand-up comedian, a storyteller, and a screenwriter. She's also an alumni of the Upright Citizens Brigade and the Groundlings. Now check this out, guys. She's a 5-time Moth Story Slam champion. 5 times, and that ain't nothing. She was recently voted the best live act at the 25th Annual Los Angeles Comedy Festival in 2019. She also, as a fun fact, and for money, she writes movies for the Hallmark Channel and Lifetime movies. Yes, it's true. It's all drama all the time. Wherever you are, put your hands together for the fabulous Jenna Brister. Hey, Jenna.
Oh, hey, Christine. Thank you so much. That was the best intro, and I miss you so much. This is one of my favorite shows of all time, and I'm sure a lot of you who have been to the Improv to see the show, there's nothing like it. It's high stakes competitive storytelling. So thank you for having me. I'm going to tell you a story, a very LA story. Now, I grew up in the 90s watching TGIF, Nick at Night, and stand-up specials on Comedy Central. And a few years ago, a friend invited me to see Artie Lang at the Staples Center. And I, of course, said yes, like any good storyteller does. And he knew the opener, so we were able to go backstage after. And there were TMZ reporters and stuff everywhere. And they asked if I wanted to meet Artie. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we go into this room, and it's this Jabba the Hutt style meet and greet. Okay, he's in the far end on a couch, and there's women going to say hello one by one. So I just hung back. I was like, nah, I'm cool, I'm good. And so I turn in next to me. I instantly recognize this guy. He's in his probably mid to late 40s, and he's a very memorable character from one of those TGIF sitcoms. And so we start chatting and like laughing about the show. Artie's great. And I'm thinking, how LA is this entire scene? It's just classic. So the next morning I wake up and there's a Facebook message from him. He found me and asked if he could take me on a date. And he was really sweet and a TV character that I knew in the 90s. So I gave him my number, and then he calls because he peaked in the 90s, and that's what they did back then. So he asked if I'm free that night because he needs a date to a premiere of a movie that he's in that's showing at the Ford Theater. And he warns me there's this whole red carpet, and I assure him I have the perfect dress. I don't have the perfect dress. So we hang up, and I run down to Abbot Kinney to this boutique I'd never been inside of because I had no reason to. You know, no one had asked me to any red carpet premieres yet. And I bought 2 little black dresses. One of them shows way more leg, and one of them shows more back. And I couldn't decide. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. So I go home and I model them for my roommate. And we decide that the open back one is better for red carpet photos because they always like do this in them. And we'd be sitting down for an outdoor movie in the summer. And I did not want lower back sweat. So it's decided. And he lives in Franklin Village, which if you don't live in LA, that's, 15 miles and an hour away. And he invites me over to his house before the premiere to get ready so that we can drive together. So I go to his house and we exchange pleasantries. And then I go into the bathroom to change into my dress because I wasn't comfortable changing in front of him yet because he's a stranger from the 90s. And he has a cat in his bathtub, this gorgeous cat in one of those structures. And he's just chilling. And so I get all slicked up, I get my dress, fix my makeup, you know, and I come out and he's already in his tuxedo. And we have our first kiss right there in the entryway. And I run my fingers through the same long hair that I had seen on my TV screen in the 90s. And I'm thinking to myself, this is already an incredible first date. He tells me he's divorced. I tell him I recently deleted Tinder, so all systems go. And so we get into his car, and he says, oh, we got to swing by and pick up my friend Brenda. She's going to the premiere too. So I'm like, yeah, cool. So I figure she must be on the way to the Ford Theater. No. We detour over the hill to Toluca Lake to get her. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe she can't drive because she has a DUI or several DUIs. And then he tells me that she's an old friend of his and she likes to go to events like this with him and act as his, you know, pseudo manager. And I'm like, oh, of course, the biz. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, everyone does that. So we pull up to her house and this beautiful blonde lady gets in the back of the car and she tells us, she's just kind of freaking out. And she's like, oh, I hate leaving my daughter with a babysitter because I just miss her so much. And I'm like, oh, she has a kid and she wants to have a couple drinks and then take a cab home because no one wants to make anyone else an orphan. You know, no one wants that on their conscience. So either way, she's nice and we chat the whole drive. She asked me how old I am, which is a weird question. And I don't ask her back because I have manners. And we get to the red carpet at the theater and I'm terrified. All right, I've never been in that situation. There's reporters yelling stuff, photographers everywhere, step and repeat. It's a whole thing. And so he holds my hand and we're taking pictures. I'm like, again, what a first date. And so then he's like, Brenda. And so Brenda comes over. And so like the three of us are posing together on the red carpet. And then a reporter comes up and pulls him away to ask some questions. So then it's just me and Brenda, like posing and just being like, posing for photos. And we take our seats and he kisses me in front of her for our second kiss. And then he goes to grab us drinks, which gives me and Brenda, his closest friend and pseudo manager, time to get acquainted. And she asked how long we've been dating. And I said, oh, just today, actually. Yeah, he's great. He seems like a nice guy. I like him. And so the movie starts and we're watching it. And his character, he actually voices a robot, a really funny, like robot animatronic character. And so anytime the robot comes on screen, it's like, so it's funny. But she starts to panic about missing her child again. And it's just getting more intense. And so she's like, I'm just going to call a cab and go home. And so she takes off and I'm like, finally, back to the date, you know? So after the movie, we skip the thing and we head back to his place and we make sweet like to each other. Now I don't sleep over, and not because I'm not prepared. I keep a toothbrush in my glove box like a grown-up, but it's because I needed to call my older sister immediately and give her all the details, which I did. And thank God she was up at midnight and she was breastfeeding her newborn, my nephew. So I fill her in on everything because that's what every new parent wants, is to get a middle of the night phone call having your sister tell you a fucktail about some celeb from the 90s. She loved it. So we go on more dates, and luckily Brenda, the mystery woman, is not with us. And even though it's sort of a long distance relationship across LA, we managed to see each other. And it's fun. He's really nice, really funny guy. Everything is normal. And he tells me that he hasn't had many relationships since his divorce, but that's not that weird. You know, they broke up because he didn't want kids and she did. And I get that. You know, it's hard. I married a guy in Vegas once and got divorced 2 months later. So this is a judgment-free zone. So he drives over to my house in Venice one sunny afternoon and immediately asks me if I can go outside in the yard for an hour because he has to do a radio interview. Because the sitcom that he was on from the 90s is re-airing, you know, part of this whole nostalgia, we're going to play everything. And he wants to do some press, or he has to do a press interview, and he doesn't want me to listen in because he has anxiety. And so I'm like, yeah, of course, man. And so I grab a Corona and my phone and I post up on a lawn chair. And then I realized, oh, I've never Googled this guy. That's such a thing you can do now. You know, I always forget to do that. So I do. And I find his bio on IMDb and it lists his former spouse's name. Brenda. So I click on her name and it takes me to her profile. And sure enough, it's blonde Brenda. He brought his first wife on our first date. So I'm sitting out here for the rest of the hour, just like pounding the Corona, wondering what to do, pacing. I'm kind of also admiring the audacity to do that. So he wraps up his call and he joins me outside. And I ask him, did you bring your first wife on our first date? And he shrugs and he's like, yeah, you know, I bring her on a lot of dates because I don't want it to be weird between them. You know, she adopted this kid after we split and she hasn't found love. And I'm like, you don't want it to be weird? That's the weirdest thing you could do. So you may be shocked to hear that things did not work out and that they ended between us. But we are still friends. And no, he was not on the show Friends. He was on the show Blossom. Thank you. And scene.
Scene. Wonderful job, Jenna. Wait, stay with me. So he was on Blossom. What's his name?
Yeah. Oh, his real name is Mike. Yeah, he plays the older brother.
Wow, that is so funny. I can't believe
this guy. So he's on blast now, though. Story Smash.
Is that right? Wait, listen. Was his first wife, was she nice?
Yeah, I think as nice as you could be at it, you know, kind of being brought along on a first date, you know, with
they didn't have children together, right?
Pardon?
They didn't have children together, right?
They didn't. Yeah. No, and I didn't know. I wish I would have loved to have the heads up because I'm cool with that. If someone's like, oh yeah, this is my ex, like I'm not weird about that kind of stuff. But it was more weird not knowing, you know?
Totally.
I would have loved the heads up.
But wait, they didn't have children together, right? No, she adopted differently.
Yeah.
It's just funny that why did he have to stay close to his ex if there's no kids? Like, why does she have to have a say?
I know. I think they had like some sort of long relationship. Like, you know, you can kind of become codependent, or I wouldn't know because that's never happened to me. But I think they had kind of this, you know, thing where maybe she was his manager at some point. I don't know. I actually didn't end up seeing her again. Nope. We dated for a little while.
Yeah.
But without her.
Where did you see her again? Where did you see her again?
Oh, no, I didn't. Luckily. I never saw her.
Oh, I thought you said you saw her again. It's just, it's really a little strange. And you just kind of glossed over that little fact that you got married in Vegas and divorced in 2 months.
Yes, I'm saving it for the Story Smash portion.
Oh, good. Okay. I hope I land on that. Yay.
But yeah, no, I did. And this was right. This was like probably the year after I got married in Vegas. So not much fazed me by that time, you know, but I wasn't married for very long.
It's so funny. Yeah. It's just so funny how everybody has a story, you know, like everybody, like, you know, you might look at you, Jenna Brister, and nobody would think, oh yeah, that girl over there, she ran off to Vegas, got married, you know, and immediately got divorced.
A hardened divorcee. It's my secret weapon. It really is. Yeah. Because if you bring it up, yeah, you're right. People don't believe it. No, but honestly, if I ever get married again, I would get married in Vegas. It's so fun.
No kidding.
Yeah.
There was no family there though, right?
My family flew down. It was premeditated Vegas.
Oh my God.
Which is even worse than Impulse Vegas. Inviting all your loved ones down. Ugh. But
they must be so proud.
Yeah, totally. But it was worth it. It was fun.
All right. Thanks, Jenna.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You bet, sweetie. All right, you guys, this next guy coming to the stage, he's a writer and a storyteller and an occasional comedian. He is based here in Los Angeles, and he's performed on The Risk Show. You know, Risk is another great storytelling podcast from Kevin Allison out of New York, and it's a good show, Risk, so check that out. And he also has been on the show Right Club. I did that one. Right Club LA, I did that. Drunkalog, I haven't done that. Oh boy, Emerson, you gotta hook me up. And he's also lost over a dozen Moth Story Slams. He's also the host of Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes on K-Chung. Please welcome my friend Emerson Dameron. Hey, Emerson.
Hey, Christine, thanks for having me. There's always one Moth judge that just doesn't like me, and I've not figured out how to fix that. I have done a lot of stupid and self-destructive and ill-advised things in my life. And most of them seem to be the result of trying to pretend that everything is okay and everything is cool when it's not. For instance, I am a sophomore in college. I'm technically a college student, although I've dropped all of my classes this semester. And I've spent the last week drinking and carousing and carrying on with a group of friends in Austin, Texas. And now it's time to go home to my college town of Athens, Georgia. It's Sunday night, and I'm in a large SUV with 8 other people who are all somewhere on that spectrum between good friends and friendly acquaintances, like all good people. And it's my turn to drive. And I can feel in my gut that this is not a good idea, but I am a risk taker as well as a team player. So I get in the driver's seat and I glide out onto the interstate. It's night and it's cool. It's okay. I'm going to get us from here to there. I notice that I am much further off the ground than I'm used to being when I drive. At this point, I've never driven an SUV before. I've only driven sedans, and it feels like I'm flying an airplane. But I remember one of the many valuable things that I learned in kindergarten, something I learned when I was coloring, which is that if you stay between the lines and you don't do anything too ugly or interesting, you will not attract unwanted attention. So I'm breathing, I'm staying between the lines, everything is cool, I'm going to get us there. And I start reminiscing on the previous week in Austin, Texas, for which I'm extremely grateful. I had a great time. I explored my new hobby, which is mixing booze and benzos, specifically Klonopin, for which I just got a prescription and is making my drinking adventures a lot more chaotic than they had been before. I'm getting some good stories out of it, but it's still fun at this point. It's manageable, more or less. And I had a blast. I saw a lot of great music. I was almost part of a threesome. I was asked to substitute for a guy who was supposed to be in the threesome but had not shown up, and then he did show up at the last minute. So that didn't happen. But the point was that I was out, I was engaged in life, opportunities were presenting themselves. At one point, I called my mom from a bar and I told her, "Mom, I am happy right now. And if I ever tell you that I've never been happy in my life, you can hold this against me." And she seemed to be happy too, because I had not been happy in a while leading up to that moment. And now I'm extremely burned out and tired and partied out and bleary-eyed, but it's my turn to drive and I'm going to get us there. I'm going to stay between the lines. It's cool. It's okay. We cross the state line from Texas into Louisiana, and I wonder if this whole thing was not a bad idea. If it wasn't a bad idea to go on this trip this soon after I got out of a mental hospital. A couple of weeks prior to this, I was confined to a mental hospital for a week after I maybe kind of sort of tried to kill myself. I was blackout drunk, so I don't remember a lot of the details, but just from an objective third-party perspective, looking at what happened, it bore all of the hallmarks of a botched suicide attempt. And I told my therapist about it, because if something like this happens and you have a therapist and you don't tell them, you're throwing your money away. And that's how I ended up spending a week in a mental hospital. I checked myself in, and right away, I realized I did not want to be there. I felt like I made a terrible mistake. So I found my attending physician and I said, I don't like this. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And he said, the bad news is that I can't just let you go home. I have to keep you in here a week. The good news is I'm going to put you on a lot of drugs. And one of the drugs was Klonopin, which was a revelation. I felt relaxed and chilled out for possibly the first time in my life. I was surrounded by very disturbed people, and I did not have to empathize with them. I was basically on my own little cloud for what turned out to seem like just a weird week off of school. It was a little vacation, and I checked out a week later, having learned nothing, and dove headfirst back into the Athens bar scene, where I started mixing the Klonopin and booze, and things were getting interesting. Not quite yet what felt dangerous, but I still was very tired and weary and had a bad feeling in my gut. But everything is cool. Everything is okay. I'm going to get us from here to there and do my driving shift like a good member of the team. And I'm staying between the lines, breathing in, breathing out. Blue lights come on behind me. And this is fine too. This has happened before. I can talk my way out of it. It's not a big deal. It's just something that's happening. I ease the SUV over onto the side of the interstate, and I'm greeted by a big, sweaty Louisiana highway patrolman who is not exactly the person that I wanted to see. I don't know much about the Louisiana legal system. I know that it's weird and it's different from other states. And this guy looks like if he fed me to crocodiles, it would not be the first time that he'd done that with a person. And he asks me to step out of the vehicle. And I make a move to do that. I start getting up out of the seat, and I'm met with a surprising amount of resistance. Like, I feel like I'm tangled up and I can't move. It feels like I'm caught in a spider web. And the highway patrol officer says, "Sir, take off your seatbelt." So I do that. And then I make a move to get out of the SUV. And once again, I realize that I'm much further off of the ground than I thought I was. And so instead of stepping out of the SUV, I stumble out and land on my knees, and 3 prescription bottles come tumbling out of my pocket and bounce onto the tarmac with a clickety-clack sound. And as I'm gathering them and putting them back in my pockets, the highway patrolman asks, "Where are you headed?" And I say, Athens, Georgia, not Athens, Greece. Haha. And he asks, "When was the last time that you slept?" And I say, "About 3 days ago," which is not true, but it feels true enough in this moment. And it feels like the thing to say in this conversation. And the guy says, "I have an idea. Why don't you get in the back and take a nap, and someone else can drive for a while?" And I say, "I think that's an excellent plan." So I get in the back of the SUV, and one of my friends gets in the driver's seat and eases back onto the interstate, and everyone's laughing because they're relieved. It was a ridiculous situation. It could have gone horribly wrong. It did not. The white guy predictably did something idiotic and is walking away from it now, and all is well. And they're laughing with me. They're empathizing, but I don't hear it that way. I hear this cruel cackling that washes into this rising tide of rage and terror and sadness that I've been holding down for as long as I can remember. And I scream and sob and start crying and collapse. And everyone else in the SUV is quiet, except for my very good friend, Matt Thompson, who starts talking me down. I say, Matt, nothing is cool. Nothing is okay. Nothing will ever be all right. And Matt says, I don't know about that, but I do think that you should try to get it together, because I don't want you to become a religious fanatic. I think that would be disappointing. And eventually I get some sleep, and eventually I get back to Athens, and I do not become a religious fanatic. I eventually stop drinking, and I experience many fleeting moments of happiness. So all's well that ends well. Thank you.
Emerson, I want to give you a big hug.
I'll give you an IOU for when the vaccine comes out.
I didn't know that story. Dude, I'm so sorry. That was huge to share that.
Well, thank you.
Why couldn't you sleep? What was it? The Klonopin?
Yeah, it was just my sleeping schedule was screwed up, and I was young and full of gusto, and I'd had the big 23 skidoo week and was overwhelmed and just was not in a good place at that point.
But who gave you that drug? Who told you that was a good idea?
The doctor in the mental hospital that I was in, because he wanted to calm me down so I wouldn't want to leave.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Like, he had to keep me in there, so doping me up was the most efficient way to do that.
Man, oh man, that is a scary thing. I mean, that's like a nightmare. You wake up in a place like that and you can't leave, and then they drug you. It's really scary, man.
It made it tolerable at the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm super happy you're okay. You look really handsome.
Oh, thank you.
All right, stick around for Story Smash, would you?
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, we've got one more storyteller for the evening, and he's an amazing guy. He's coming on in just a minute. And then we're going to be playing Story Smash, the storytelling game show at 7 o'clock. But before we get to Eddie's story, hang on one second. I wanted to tell you guys a quick story about when I turned 50 a couple of years ago. I turned 50, and I wanted to do something that was, extraordinary, something that would kind of, something big, because I'm turning 50, and I just wanted to do something that would be interesting and powerful and just something. And at the time, I was dating a guy who had a motorcycle, and we would do a lot of motorcycle riding up and down PCH because he lived in Malibu, and we'd go over the canyons, and we'd go to this really cool restaurant called the Rock Store, where all these motorcycle guys hang out, and Jay Leno's always there. And it was just really fun. And when you're on a motorcycle in the canyons there in Malibu, as it were, there is a photographer who kind of hangs out on one of the corners, and he takes pictures of people on the back of motorcycles, which then you can go on the internet and buy the photos that the guy took, right? So that happened, and that started me thinking about a picture on a motorcycle. And then at the same time, I was kind of thinking about Richard Branson. You know that guy from England who is like a zillionaire, and he's like so wealthy. He owns Virgin Airways, and he's so wealthy. There's pictures of him with like a naked chick on his back all the time. Like, he's water skiing, naked chick on his back. He's on, wherever he's on, there's a naked chick on his back. Like, he's so wealthy, there's a naked girl who's always hanging on him. But it's always kind of funny. It's not pornographic or anything. It's just sort of a funny statement. So I started thinking about those photos that Richard Branson has, and then this guy who takes photos in the canyons of Malibu. And I asked my boyfriend at the time if he would go along with me to do like a stunt for my 50th birthday in which I would ride on the back of the Harley naked, like totally naked. And I told him I could hire a photographer who I've used before, and I can hire a wardrobe girl. She won't have much to do, but sure, so she'll be there as well. And if he could ride the bike, we can make this happen. So on December 22nd, a couple of years ago, we went out and we scouted these locations where we thought it would look really cool. And then on December 23rd, right before Christmas Eve, we assembled the team, the photographer, the wardrobe girl, myself, and my boyfriend at the time, and we set out into the Malibu Hills to take this photo. And the girl, the photographer, Michelle, she must have taken like 800 pictures, truly, like 800, a lot of pictures. We were never going more than like 35 miles an hour, but we would go to a certain strip and, you know, in the road, and Michelle would set up her lights, and she had like a big flash, a flag thing or whatever. And then the wardrobe girl, Karma, you know, she'd help me out. She'd put a robe on me and then take the robe off, and we'd go down the road, you know, on the motorcycle, and then Michelle would click. When at first my boyfriend heard I wasn't gonna wear anything, he said, well, you're gonna have like a thong on or something, right? I said, what do you think, I'm a slut? No, I'm not gonna wear a thong. I'm not wearing anything. Anyway, so the outcome is that I get a really cool photo. I get the photo I wanted. I get a really neat image. And I decide to send it to AARP. And the reason why I decided to send it to them is because for several months before I turned 50, maybe even 2 years before I turned 50, they kept inundating me with all of these flyers and postcards about how I had to join AARP. And they'd send me brochures with people with, you know, gray hair golfing or whatever. And I have to join AARP, and that's how I'm going to stay in contact with my senior friends, and they'll send me a lunch bag and maybe a tote bag or maybe an ice pack to keep my medicines cold because I'm going to be 50 and I guess I'm going to need that. And I just hated those emails. So I sent my photo to an editor at AARP, and I just wrote, this is 50. This is 50. And I showed them the picture. And guess what? They loved it. Yeah, he wrote me back. They decided to do a whole expose on me, and they're going to print the picture in the AARP on their digital platform. I'm going to be the new like 50. You know, this is 50, and I'm so excited. And they pay me $800. $750 went to the photographer. The other $50 to the wardrobe girl. And I was so psyched. And then the night before the picture was supposed to come out, I got an email, and it just said, Dear Christine, I'm sorry to tell you, we are unable to post the picture tomorrow. You know, the campaign is off, and, you know, our editors find it too risque. And it was like, well, wasn't that what it was supposed to be? You know, it's supposed to be risque. Anyway, it was really frustrating. And so I did get paid, but I lost that opportunity at that magazine. So instead, I sent it to Huffington Post. And the Huffington Post not only put it on their front page, but they titled it, This is 50, and they did an entire expose on me with like 15 pictures. So it was really cool. So just for fun, I will share with you the picture in case you haven't seen it. Maybe you already have. Have you guys seen this photo? I bet you've seen that. Yeah, that's me. I also got a lot of flack for the scarf. You see, I've got the scarf on. A lot of people angry about that. And that it could get stuck in the wheels, and then, you know, and I'm just thinking, you know, this is probably the least of my worries, but nonetheless, yeah, it was fun. All right, there you go. That's the story of me and the Harley. All right. Okay, you guys, one more storyteller coming up tonight, and I'm so excited. He's also going to be judging Story Smash, so stick around. All right, this guy is an Emmy award-winning comedy writer who has worked extensively with Dennis Miller and also on the show, Showbiz Show with David Spade. And recently, this guy was on Storyworthy talking about the night Johnny Carson died and gathering at the NBC stage with Don Rickles and Gilbert Gottfried. It's an amazing story. You've got to listen to that. This guy, David Feldman, on Storyworthy. It's an amazing story. And right now he's got a new show coming out called Super Funny. I think I just called him David because there's a David Feldman. He knows this. We always get this confused, but it's not David. It's the one and only Eddie Feldman. You guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Eddie Feldman. Hey, Eddie.
Hi. Yes, that happens a lot, but no problem. So anyway, tonight, I thought I would talk a little bit about, because we're in this situation where comedy clubs haven't been able to open, and we really haven't been able to go and support stand-up. Talk a little bit about the old days. And if in the old days, like if you ever watched David Letterman in the 80s or 90s, he would always have a comedian on who would plug these comedy clubs around the country. And that's where I started working before I started doing TV. And whenever you traveled around, you needed some place to stay. So you always stayed at a comedy condo. Maybe you've heard some comedy condo stories. But really every city had a comedy club, and they also had comedy condos where three comics who maybe you've never met before would get together and stay there really for the week. It was like opener, your middle, your headliner. And usually people got along. You just came in, you kind of, met for the first time, you did your job, you hung out, but they were dotted all around America. In fact, a friend of mine, Jim Hanna, who is a really funny comedian, one day went into one of the comedy condos on the first day of the week. He gets there, he opens the door, there's already a guy on the couch watching TV. He says hello, puts his bag down the room, sits down, starts watching TV, and then says, oh, hey, I'm Jim, and I'm the middle act. And the guy goes, wait a minute, who are you? Turned out it wasn't a comedy condo. It was comedy condo was in another building. He was already been there before him. It was some guy who lived there who thought it was a friend of a roommate. So these comedy condos are all around, and you really, some good, some bad. So I'm working all these sort of clubs, and then all of a sudden in Atlantic City, a comedy club opened up at the Tropicana Hotel. And it was kind of a big deal because it was all new. No other clubs have ever been opened in Atlantic City, and I got to play one. It was like, great. When you think, oh, I'm gonna stay at a hotel, the Tropicana, but no, too expensive. They had a comedy condo. So actually, this comedy condo was really nice. It was a high-rise building. It was all new. It just opened. And I don't know if you've ever been to Atlantic City, but they come through different stages. Everyone's always saying, oh, it's going to be better. It's going to be great. I remember I went with as a kid, and it was really seedy and carnival-like. And I went to see this diving horse and the steel pier, and I loved every minute of it. So one of the first times there, I decided, oh, I'll bring my girlfriend, who's now my wife. So I'll take her, and let's go to Atlantic City, stay at this comedy condo. And right away, she got there. She loved the condo, but she wasn't so fond of Atlantic City. And I'm trying to show her a good time and say, hey, no, this is great. We can go to the beach. It's 4th of July. Here we are. We lived in New York City. So I said to her, I go, why don't we, why don't we take a walk down the boardwalk? Why don't we go down? The Taj Mahal had just opened up. That's a big casino. You'll like that. And she's like, yeah, okay. So we're walking down the boardwalk, and I don't know if you've been to Atlantic City, but it's a little dicey at times, and especially this time. And so, I'm trying to keep her mind off of it, but then I look over in the beach, and there's like a flatbed truck on the beach, and because it's hot, and then there's a family under the flatbed truck having a picnic, and again, like, hey, I go, look, what, a little farther down, I hear some music. Maybe there's a street performer. Let's go see what that is on our way to the Taj Mahal. So we walk a little bit and we hear the strains of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, from the Wizard of Oz. And I'm like, oh, look, hey, someone's playing something from the Wizard of Oz. Isn't this great? And again, she's not giving it up whatsoever. So we get closer, we see a crowd around, the people around, we kind of push our way through to see, oh, who's playing the organ, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And as we get through, we see who's playing the organ, but there's a woman on a gurney who can't use her arms and legs, and she's playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow on an organ with her tongue. So I look at my girlfriend, she looks at me, I give up, we just go back to the condo. That was pretty much it for her in Atlantic City. So at the same time, as I'm working in Atlantic City, you know, one thing about Vegas and Atlantic City for comedians, there's a problem, because the problem is comedians like to gamble. And when you're in a place like that for a whole week, what happens is you want to gamble, and many comedians are not good gamblers. I work with a very funny comedian, Rich Voss, who liked to gamble and not very good at it. Every time I saw him, he was missing a gold chain because he had hopped it to play blackjack. So what you try to do is, you know, spend less time in the casinos or come up with some sort of system, because you're sort of there for a whole week. What I used to do with my comic friends was pool our money. We go play the slot machines a little bit, you know, win a few dollars here and there, and basically kind of spend the whole sort of night. Did that one time with this comedian, Rich Jenny. And I don't know if you've known Rich, he's no longer with us. He was really one of the foremost comedians out there, you know, a headliner. He's been on The Tonight Show many times, an HBO special, had his own sort of sitcom. He's really a great guy. And he's kind of those comedians who, some people like to go out, he has to go out. Some people like to try to meet girls, he has to meet girls. That's just how Rich was. So Rich and I go to the Golden Nugget one day and one night, and we're like, okay, hey, you know what, let's each put in a few bucks. We had like $50, and we're like, let's go, hey, let's play some dollar slots. So, okay, we're killing some time. We're playing the dollar slots. One of the waitresses from the comedy club was with us. We're having a pretty good time. And then, so we had a little bit, and then we walk over to some other machines and put money in. We didn't win. I start to walk away. And then I say to Rich, I go, Rich, you know, hey, the money that we're putting in, we put in dollars, but that's a $5 machine. And he looks at me and I'm like, yeah, I go, what happens if we win? If we win, do you think we'll get $5 tokens back? And, I don't know. So we start putting in dollar tokens, pull the machine a few times. We win 2-to-1 odds, but what comes out? 2 $5 tokens. So it was paying 10-to-1. Like, hey, we found a broken machine. We start pumping money in as fast as we possibly can. You know, we hear this little clink, clink, clink that used to be all the time when the monkey would come down. We start playing more and more. It starts coming out. You know, we're having a great time. The waitress come over, getting drinks. Everybody's, you know, just enjoying it. And then all of a sudden, the clink, clink, clink stops. It's like, well, hey, what happens? There's a light flashing. The waitress comes over and goes, oh, hey, you guys ran out of money. You guys broke the bank. We're like, oh, we did? So I start scooping up all the money, putting it into buckets. At that time in Atlantic City, you had these big buckets that you would carry around. Like, I got buckets of money. You all nickels worth about $25. But we had $5 tokens. I'm loading up the buckets. I'm looking at Rich. He's pushing the attendant button. So the attendant comes over, and the attendant says, hey, what's the issue? He goes, hey, and Rich, of course, being the comedian, is like, hey, I'm sorry, but hey, this is out of money. Could you refill it? So the guy opens it back up. He starts looking in it. He sees our dollar tokens. I'm still scooping up the money. He's like, yeah, I think this machine is broken. I got to call security. Like, no, that's all right. We're done. So we take our money. We win like $800. We beat the casino. We're really having this like, hey, this is great, you know? So anyway, the next time that I'm in Atlantic City, I'm working with Rich and Felicia Michaels. So Felicia, who's coming up later on the Story Show, is a great comedian. And you see, in these comedy condos, it wasn't guys, it was like female comics, male comics. You didn't know them, you just kind of sort of got together. I mean, you know, I have to give it up really to the female comedians at all those times who had to travel around and deal with being a single woman on the road. I mean, one time I worked with a comedian, and the deal was she was going to drive me from Rochester to Buffalo. And this woman became very famous. She had a talk show, not Ellen, during the day, but she did really well, very nice. And a friend of mine, this comedian Joe Bolster, said, oh, you're working with her? And they go, yeah, she's going to drive me from Rochester to Buffalo. And my friend Joe said, what do you know about the picnic basket? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? He goes, well, she's a female comic on the road. She's had some issues. So I understand that she carries a pistol in a picnic basket with her. I'm like, okay, that's kind of good to know. So we do the show. The next day I wait at the car for her to come drive me to Buffalo, New York, to this great club, the Tralfamador. And all of a sudden she comes with her luggage, and sure enough, there's the picnic basket. So obviously I was very well behaved in the car, like I usually am. So, but I gotta say, I know there's been other stories, but women really had to hit the road with this and have to deal with all these sort of issues that the guys did, and always wasn't easy. So this week, I'm working with Felicia Michaels and Rich Jenny, really a great show. And we're in this condo in Atlantic City. Now, this wasn't a big, great condo that we were first in. It was a high rise. It was a okay sort of condo, because obviously somewhere along the line, comedians screwed it up. I don't know, whatever they did and what comedians do, whether they were drunk, loud, belligerent, took a dump in the jacuzzi, all that stuff happens. Anyway, they got rid of the really big high-rise casino. We're in a decent casino. So the thing that I would say too is, now there's a connection, because Felicia's boyfriend at the time was actually Rich Jenny's manager. And so knew Rich pretty well, knew kind of his reputation, and then realized that, okay, my girlfriend's going to spend a week in a condo with Rich Jenny, and me, Eddie, who kind of became more of the chaperone in between of the group. But Rich is great, a gentleman, no sort of problem. So we have some great shows. We're doing the whole sort of thing. And then it's like, hey, you know what? After a show, Rich and I are like, hey, let's go out. Let's go to the casinos again. Maybe we'll find the broken slot machine, win another $800. So, of course, as we head out, we see Felicia, who gives us a look, and it's like, well, Felicia, come on, you got to come along with us. So she's like, great. So she heads out with us, and we go out to the casinos and kind of, again, pool our money, playing a little slot machines and those sort of thing. And then we end up at the Claridge Casino, which the Claridge is kind of a boutique casino, I guess it is. Now it's a Radisson. I think it was a little more upscale at the time. And so we're just hanging around there. And as we walk down a hallway, Rich picks up a house phone and talks into it. And we're like, okay, we're laughing because he's a comedian. We're figuring he's just doing some bit, some sort of thing. But then he looks at us and goes, hey, come on, come with me. So we follow him to some elevators, nondescript elevators on a hallway. And we hang around, we're looking around like, well, what's going on? Oh, the elevator doors open. And who comes out with these two guys in tuxedos who know Rich, hug him, shake his hands, introduce us. And we go up into the elevator. We really don't know what's going on. We get up there and we realize these guys say, oh yeah, we're the butlers. So we're the butlers for high rollers. This is what we do. And they're friends of Rich, of course, because Rich knows everybody. So he goes, yeah. And so again, this is kind of early on in the casino stage. We don't know that much. Now we know more about what whales are and, about these high rollers sort of things. And we're like, well, what, you're butlers for who? It's like celebrities and that? And they're like, no. We don't deal with celebrities, really. These are really wealthy people who come and lose a lot of money and spend a lot of money. So it might be some guy from Akron who owns all the dry cleaners and is like a millionaire guy and just loves to gamble. Our job is to treat him, like he is a celebrity. Get him anything he wants, do whatever he wants. And legal, we're like, yeah, legal, maybe a little illegal. And we're like, yeah, great. You go, want to see one of the suites? And so all of us, Felicia and I and Rich, were like, yeah, sure, we'll take a look at the suite. So we go into this suite, which again is unbelievable. You can't rent the suites, they're thousands of dollars a night. So it had a pool table in it, a full bar, a kitchen, everything, a jacuzzi, everything you wanted. And then these guys go, hey, do you want some drinks? And of course, we're comedians, so yes, we'd like to have some drinks. And they had opened some bottles of Dom Perignon. They had, whiskey, whatever you guys wanted. And then it was like, hey, you guys hungry? It's like, hey, we're always hungry. Sure, what do you have? So we're thinking, oh, some snacks. They bring out big trays of lobster. They bring out giant shrimp, caviar, more Doms, chocolates. And it's like, so after a little while, the butlers say, hey, listen, we're getting off work. And then I know Rich said like, oh, wait a minute. So what do you mean you're getting off work? This wasn't work? And he's like, no, this is what we do. Said, so what we'd like to do though, is any place where we can kind of still hang out, maybe smoke a joint. And of course, what do we have? We have the comedy condo. It's like, yeah, come back to the comedy condo. But that's what the comedy condo is for. So we all wait in the hallway for them. They're going to change. So Felicia and I and Rich are waiting there. And all of a sudden they come back with like these shopping bags. So they give us each a shopping bag, and we don't like just take them because by now we've been drinking a little bit. And so like, yeah, we all go back to the comedy condo. Then we look in the shopping bags. There's like 2 bottles of Dom Perignon. There's a Chivas Regal bottle. There's 2 pounds of chocolates. There's a giant bathrobe, and it's like, oh, this is all the swag all those the whales get. So what happens is we get back to the hotel, back to the condo. So this is before cell phones, before, we didn't have an answering machine. So in a comedy condo, what happens is you give the number to maybe your wife, your girlfriend, your husband, somebody you need to, know the number, and they would call you. So what happens is they would call, you hear the phone ring, you would wait. So one day, like the phone rang while we were there, and one afternoon, and then so I'm waiting, nothing. And then 5 minutes later, the phone rings again, and waiting here like, oh, Eddie, phone, nothing, phone, nothing. So then it rings again. I pick it up, and it's my girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, hey, were you calling before? She goes, yeah, I kept calling, but like some little kid kept picking up. I'm like, oh, that's Felicia. And Felicia said, oh, yeah, that always happens in her voice that time. So now we go back to the comedy condo. And again, we're again partying, and we're there for just a few minutes. So this is pretty late. This is like 2:30 in the morning now, and then all of a sudden the phone rings. It's like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm pretty sure it's not my girlfriend because she works in advertising. But I pick up the phone, and it's like, oh, this guy goes, oh, hey, is Felicia there? And then I'm like, oh, Felicia, it's for you. And then so what happens is, after a show, if you're going to call for somebody that's on the show, like at a condo, you might, give them a half hour to get back. All right. So, but this is hours and hours later. And I think Felicia's boyfriend was calling many times. And so, especially since he knew that also on the bill with me was Rich Jenny. It's like, hey, where is Felicia? It's 4 hours after the show, and she's not back in the condo. So I tell her your phone. She marches upstairs, and of course, you don't hang up right away. And as she's marching up there and her boyfriend is listening, again, you got 5 drunk guys talking about with butlers and about, oh, what can you get? And I think Rich was like, well, tell us about the hookers. So everyone is having a great time except poor Felicia, who spent the rest of the night while we were downstairs partying, trying to explain to her boyfriend and Rich's manager that everything was fine, except every pause that she took was just our cursing, swearing, and guys. So, I tell the story because I have to give it up, like I said, to the female comedians who had to travel all that time and go through these clubs and deal with all the bullshit and have to deal with it. And to Rich Jenny, if you don't know Rich is, go and find him on YouTube, like where their show is. He was really one of the best stand-ups, really, really kind of set the stage for it is. And here's the last thing is, if you are a stand-up, know that Rich always wasn't great. He worked at it. I worked with a comedian who, when he first started out, said Rich was awful. I never wanted to say it before, but I told him maybe this isn't for you. But Rich came in every night, worked his ass off, got better and better till he was one of the top headliners in the country. So I knew that Felicia was going to be on the show tonight. It was just one of those times which was like a fun, magical time for being a comedian. And hopefully all the clubs open back up and you get to go to the comedy condos and see some great comedies and comedians around the US soon. And although Zoom is just a wonderful place for it, but get out there and see some live comedy when you're able to. So that's my little story tonight about the Butlers at the Claridge.
All right. Oh man, Eddie, that's such a great story. That was so thorough. And I know Felicia's here and she's listening, and she's going to chime in just a second because I'm sure she has comments about that night. That was amazing. And like I said, you guys, listen to Eddie Feldmann on Storyworthy because he told a story about the night Johnny Carson died that drops more names than I don't know what. It's really great.
Then Hollywood Squares.
There you go. Then Hollywood Squares. You see, he's the comedy writer. Okay, listen, you guys, hang on one second. I gotta show you this. Ty Fance just he just sent me this. You guys are gonna love it. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Ty Fance as the boxer. Now check that out. Here on the left, you see 1978, Tyrone Lightning Vance. Watts, California, in the Parole Center boxing program. I don't know what that means. Let's let it go. And let's go to the right. Look at that afro. He is cute as can be. Lightning Fance, first place. And look at those trophies. Way to go. Way to go. Way to go, Ty. You cracked me up. That was fabulous. All right, you guys, we're going to start Story Smash in just a second. But a big round of applause. Wherever you are, please put your hands together for the very, very talented Ty Fance. Where are you, Ty? I can't see you.
There he is.
There you are. Emerson Dameron. Emerson, that was amazing and truthful, and I can't believe it. I had no idea you had that background, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm glad you're in the scene. It's cool, man. I'll have you back on the show for sure. And Jenna Brister, of course. Jenna, you have to stay in the scene. You are so talented, sister.
Hello.
You did such a great job, and you're so talented. You got to start doing more shows. Come back on Storyworthy, okay?
Yes, I will.
And a big round of applause, of course, to Eddie Feldmann. Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate it so much. My name is Christine Blackburn. Good night.
I place my own bets and I make my own deals. So if you're following me,